74 here. I've been loading some 9mm bullets today. Thought, heck, let's do a video. I'm utilizing a Lee Precision Pro 1000 reloading press. Along with the press, I have some attachments, a case feeder with 4 tubes on it. Each tube holds about 25 9mm cases. Also, I have a bullet feeder with 4 tubes. They utilize 32 bullets per tube. I can run about 32 bullets in about 2.5 minutes. Give me about 120 rounds, 10-15 minutes depending on the cycle that I'm going. Also, I utilize on my powder dispenser a meter bar. I find it works more precision tuning for me rather than using the disc. It works well for me. I've been a couple hours of running. I've got about 400 or 500 bullets made. I'll run through 1 tube of bullets so you can see the function of the machine and about the length of time it takes to run off 32 bullets. There, went pretty smooth. After each tube, I end up checking my rounds. I mic them to make sure that they are setting and seating at the right depth that I want. Good. And then I check my powder to make sure that it's metering correctly. And that's good. Sometimes there's you can run into some issues with it. Sometimes with these smaller calibers of casings, when they come into the feed tubes out of the trough, Sometimes they come in upside down, and you'll have to take a moment, flip them before you seat your primer in. It all should be smooth and fluent. If you come up to the top of your cycle and you're going to be seating a primer and it's hard or it wants to jam, then you need to stop, take a minute, bring it up, kind of move your shell plate, pull your brass out, make sure that you don't have a primer that is stuck, that didn't feed through, and decap. What I end up doing is I watch on my stroke. When my stroke comes up and I'm at this point, I'm going into the decapper and sizer. I make sure that I see my primer either dislodges and falls down into the trough, or I can hear it ping. So I make sure that that's one thing that I watch. The other thing I watch is my primers. Make sure that they feed down into the feeder trough also, to make sure that it's filling up, because it's all gravity fed. If your primers aren't feeding in correctly and you end up getting a space there, you could have a misfeed on your primer. And what happens there is you don't see the primer. You go up into your second station where you're dropping your powder in. It's also flaring the mouth of the bullet or the casing, so it can take the bullet when it comes around to seating. If you don't have a primer in there, that powder is just going to go right through the primer hole, and then it's going to go into your press, and it's going to cause issues. Next one I end up watching is making sure that when I go to seat my bullet, that my fingers have a bullet in it. So when I go up and seat it and crimp it, that when it discharges off the press, there's a bullet on the end, and I'm not going to lose it into my box of finished bullets. I've been doing this for about 3 years now. When I set up my press to load bullets, it's either 9mm, 38 special, 357. I can do also 10mm, 40 caliber, 44 caliber, 44 Magnum specials, 45 APC, and 45 Colt Long. I have them set up on separate turrets, which I have right here on my Colt 45. All I have to do is take it off, my 9mm off, put my Colt 45 on, put my bullet feeder on, and my powder dispenser, and I'm ready to go. It's all set. I don't have to do any adjustments. It does take a little bit of tweaking when you're using the bullet feeder because of the attachment that comes on to your die. Sometimes it will move, so you have to be careful when you tighten it. After my well fills up with primers, I take my press apart, I do a cleaning at that time, and I put it back on. I run probably 2,000 rounds of ammunition before I have to pull the press off my bench, and then I do a cleaning to make sure that the press runs smoothly. You have to take your time. You need to learn how to utilize this press, know how it will function. It's just like any tool or equipment that you purchase. You have to learn how to use it. It took me some time to learn how to set up the case feeders, plate, setting the powder correctly, decapping it, also flaring it, and then seating it. And each time I load, I have a binder here that I utilize. I utilize many different powders. Normally my powder of choice was Accurate number 2 for my 9s, and smaller calibers, number 5 and number 9 for my Magnums, and number 7s for my Colts. Right now I'm loading with Bullseye and utilizing Extreme Bullets. I buy these online. They've always supplied my order, never been back ordered. Powder is hard to find though, so I've been utilizing Bullseye. I do have some IMR powders, and I do have a little bit of Accurate left. But whatever I can find that will utilize me making bullets, I'll utilize it. Every time I start it, a new one, I'll come in and I'll write it down on my chart. 9mm, I keep track of it. I also have load data for the powder that I'm using. I can use Bullseye, Unique, and then I can also use IMR 800X, SR 7625, or 700X on these. So each caliber that I'm loading, I have a file on it. I write it down, my loads that I use and the powders. This helps me next time I go to load. I know where to set my settings. I also have found that the starting loads in some of the manuals didn't work with my revolvers and my semi-automatic revolvers, so it took some time to learn what load worked well for my guns. And I had shot some squibs, and it can be scary. You got to be careful if you're beginning. You've got to learn what load works best for your gun that you're shooting. Always keep track of it, and always be careful with your loads. You don't want to overload, but you don't want to underload either, because you can end up getting a squib, and a squib isn't good when it's stuck in the barrel of your gun, and you shoot another one. It can be a costly mistake. So the best thing to do is keep track of your loads, and take some test rounds down to the range and shoot them off to make sure that they work well for your gun. If you have any questions, or if you'd like me to run some other type of cartridges on the Lee 1000, send me a little email or a text, and I'll answer it or do a video. So have a good day, be safe with your loading, and have fun shooting.